Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call to order the February 5th, 2013 Board of Supervisors meeting. We will begin with the flag salute led by Supervisor Montgomery.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor. Would the clerk please read the statement of meeting procedures?
Welcome to the Placer County Board of Supervisors meeting of Tuesday, February 5th, 2013. Agendas are available on the wall outside this meeting room. If you are here to speak on an issue not appearing on the agenda, you may do so during the public comment period. There is a 3-minute time limit per speaker. The board is not permitted to take action on items addressed under public comment. When you speak, clearly state your name and address for the record. All items on the agenda will be open for the public to address before final action is taken. There is a 3-minute time limit per speaker, which will be monitored by a timer on the podium. If there is a person speaking on behalf of a group with no other testimony from another member of the group, please identify yourself as such, and your time may be extended at the pleasure of the board. Keep in mind that the chairman has discretion of limiting the total discussion time on any item. If you are hearing impaired, we have listening devices available. It is requested that all pagers and cell phones be either turned off or put in the silent mode. Thank you for your participation and cooperation.
Thank you, Ms. Holman. Now is the time for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the board on any item that is not on the agenda? You have 3 minutes to state your case. Good morning.
Good morning, Ellie Waller, Tahoe Vista resident. I'm here to thank Supervisor Montgomery and county staff for trying to find a solution for an open comm link for future Tahoe issues that can be heard at an offsite location in Tahoe. It was very successful in reverse at the last Board of Supervisors meeting at the Kings Beach Event Center when Auburn could call in from offsite, not just to listen to the stream when there's important Tahoe issues, so we don't have to travel here in the event, especially if a weather event. Today was a nice day to come down, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on any item that is not on the agenda? It's a familiar face.
Morning, Supervisors. My name is Ken Tokutomi. I'm from Auburn. And I have a number of issues I want to talk about, which are all good, of course. Every year you guys help us out with, I'm chairman of Salvation Army, and one of our tasks is to go to the Gold Country Fair and buy 4-H livestock animals. And your board was very generous in donating $500 to our cause. We were able to buy 4-H animals. I think we bought 3 steers and 11 hogs, and this provides beef and pork to all of the food baskets that we donate or we give out. And I forgot how many food baskets we do, but we do a lot of them every month, and this is very appreciated by our clients. The second one is every year you guys donate to the Thanksgiving dinner. This year we had approximately 700 people show up. We figured we sent out about 325 meals to people who are shut in or wanted delivered meals, and we figured all total we did about 1,200 meals. And the last thing I'd like to report on is about 4 years ago, I sat in a room someplace in the county, and we decided to do a 442nd project. And in the 442nd project, we installed our plaque that honored the internees in the Military Intelligence Service the other day. We are in the process of trying to get 2 polished black granite benches funded, and then we're going to do a brick holder. And if the county approves the date and gives me the go-ahead, we plan to dedicate this site in June 2nd, 2013. And Placer County and the Supes were very instrumental in doing this and allowing us to use this piece of property to do what we did. And currently we've probably The private section raised about $200,000, and I'm looking for another 25, so if you guys have any money, I'd take it. Thank you very much, and I appreciate all your help. I appreciate Jim Holmes for leading the way, and that's getting your revenue sharing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board on any item under public comment? Seeing none, we'll close that and move to supervisor committee reports. Any committee reports? On my right? On my left? I do have one. At the conclusion of the May 2nd PCWA board meeting, the Placer County Water Agency will be signing the power sales agreement with PG&E about our Middle Fork revenues. This will be at 4 o'clock after the conclusion of their regular meeting. It's at the boardroom on Ferguson Drive out in the Bowman area. So any board members that wish to attend that are certainly welcome. Also in that same regard, since Supervisor Wygand and I serve on the Middle Fork Finance Authority, we're also going to start serving on the newly resurrected Water and Energy Committee with PCWA board members. We'll be able to have concurrent meetings, so there won't be any other issues with having staff, extra staff or anything. We can do as a need arises, we can have those meetings after the Middle Fork Finance Authority meeting. And then I just have another announcement. The California State Association of Counties has a new executive director, Matthew Cate. Many of you will remember his name because he last served as Governor Schwarzenegger's appointee as the Secretary of California State Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, and was continued on under Governor Brown. He has resigned that position and now serves as the California State Association of Counties Executive Director. And I must say that's going to be an interesting undertaking. So that concludes my report. Now we'll move to the consent agenda. Are there any items on the board that the board wishes removed from consent? Is there anyone in the public that wishes to remove an item? Please come forward.
Morning, Chairman Holmes, board members, Wayne Nader. I'd like to request that item 9A be removed so that it can be discussed.
Okay, thank you. Any other items? Oh. Did you want to go ahead and I don't see any other items. You want to come forward and? Oh, before we do that, let's approve the remaining items on the agenda.
Second.
It's moved and seconded to approve the remaining items on the agenda. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay. Thank you. Item 9. Oh, I'm sorry.
Duran? Wygant? Euler? Montgomery? Holmes?
Yes, thank you. Okay, Mr. Nader, you can proceed.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to air this item because I believe it very justly should be. You may be aware that in December, this position of the for the at-large member for the Planning Commission was open for those who would honor to apply for it. I was one of those that did apply, but I have since removed my name so that I could speak on this openly and without bias. I was told that there were 9 other people from the unincorporated area that did put their names in, and that the incumbent as well had put their names in. So there were certainly sufficient names for the board to consider. The issue to me is I have not heard a compelling reason why this amendment should be made so that those in the city can make decisions that are in the unincorporated area. Again, there are qualified people in the unincorporated area to be able to do this, so I don't get the reasoning for considering people in the city. They don't have a vested interest in the outcome. They obviously, the implications of what they may be making are not going to directly impact them as it would those in the unincorporated area. They're certainly going to have a bias towards the city, as there are times when there's the potential for an issue between the county and the city on a planning issue, if you have somebody from the city, aren't they certainly going to have a leaning towards issues that would implicate the city in a more positive way? I was very frustrated that this issue was brought up at Tahoe and then put on as a consent item. This is a Western Slope issue, and it should have been addressed more openly in a meeting here in Auburn. It really smacks to me of more political self-interest than it does in the interest of those who live in the unincorporated area, of which I do, in North Auburn. I find it offensive and appalling that you would do this thing without, again, giving it a fair opening hearing here. You know, you have the trust of the voters. You rely on that trust. But when you do things like this, it erodes that trust. I just believe that this is the wrong thing to do. It's a representation issue. These are matters that go before the people of the unincorporated area, not the city. I would leave you with the thought that if the city was looking for somebody to put on their planning commission, would they pick somebody from the county? I don't think so. They're certainly going to want to look out for their own interests. So I would say anyone who would vote for this is looking more out for political interests than they are for the interests of the constituents. And I would encourage you to reject this because it's not the right way to represent those people. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishes? Ms. Davis.
Hello, I'm Muriel Davis from Penryn, and I agree with everything Mr. Nieder said. I've sent you an email, and I'd like to kind of repeat it a little bit, because I also agree that since this mainly affects the western slope, because there are no cities on the eastern slope of the Sierras, and the at-large planning commissioners are one for the west slope and one for the east slope. So this really should have been in an Auburn hearing. I also would like that this ordinance change should have been presented to all the MAC meetings before this was presented to the Board of Supervisors, as other ordinance changes have done. We've seen it many times where it comes before the MAC, and then it goes to the Planning Commission, and then it goes to the Board of Supervisors, and this just jumped right into the Board of Supervisors. Also, I think this item should be a timed agenda item rather than a consent agenda item. And when this first appeared, there was no public notice. Nobody knew about it. It just happened to be on the Board of Supervisors agenda, and I happened to see it. And it occurred before a 3-day weekend, and then, boom, it's on Tuesday. So nobody had a chance to really gather information to comment about this. I think this is also a wrong ordinance change to be requested. I don't know who requested it, but the at-large commissioner was designed to represent the unincorporated area. The city residents already have an opportunity to serve on the Planning Commission by representing each of your districts. There's no guarantee. This is the only guaranteed place where we have unincorporated citizens have a chance to have representation on the Planning Commission. So I request that you remove this from the consent agenda, present it at all the MAC meetings, and bring it back as a consent item for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board on this item? Any comments from supervisors?
Just reaction to the comments. To me, the item was fairly innocuous. It used to be when I first came to the board that the at-large positions actually included eligibility for citizens who lived in the cities, and we simply broaden our base of opportunity for applications. Wayne, I'd certainly encourage you to put your application back in, even though you commented on this item. But, for me, the example was Pete Hill served on our planning commission, I think, for 2 years while he was not on the city council, and did a great job. So if there's a strong desire to spend more time on this issue, and we do have an appointment that needs to be made, but I don't know how much of a concern it is to get something done quickly. But with that, I'm certainly receptive to any ideas my colleagues may have as it relates to resolving this.
Supervisor Durant?
Yeah, I don't, I guess I don't really understand what this self-interest idea is about having having the incorporated folks in the mix in deciding planning issues. If anything, I think it shows us how progressive we are in our thought process as a group of supervisors, and also the fact that, just because I am a District 1 supervisor I do vote on issues all over the county. And I think, having someone from providing the opportunity for someone to participate on the Planning Commission isn't that big of a stretch. And I think, for me, I know I value input no matter where it comes from, and you'd be surprised at folks that I sit with and listen to. 99% of the time, we probably wouldn't agree on a lot of things, but you can gain a lot of input and a lot of understanding of concerns when you listen to folks that your interests may not be aligned. So, with regards to the conflict, I don't see one, but I certainly am receptive as well to maybe vetting this a little bit more, as Supervisor Wygant says. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't see a conflict. I doubt. I'll be real receptive to whatever concerns everybody has, but I just don't see anything. But I'll listen to what people have to say about their concerns. I guarantee that.
Supervisor Montgomery?
Yeah, Wayne, thank you for coming and bringing this forward today. I frankly don't see a huge issue with making this change, and for a couple of reasons. But I think the most important reason is we already have two folks from cities who are serving on the Planning Commission, Commissioner Rakucci from the city of Roseville and Commissioner Johnson from the city of Auburn, who is actually Supervisor or Chairman Holmes' appointment, even though he resides in my district. So we already have a precedent of folks from the city serving admirably on the Planning Commission. The background on this is I actually had three different people come to me, one from the city of Roseville, one from the city of Auburn, and one from the city of Colfax. The individual from Colfax has since removed herself because of the comments in the newspaper. She just didn't want to, move forward with putting an application in. But the argument that was made to me, and it was pretty compelling, is that residents of the towns and the cities are also residents of the county, and not vice versa. So that sort of gets to the question about, why aren't the cities asking for people from the unincorporated county to sit on their planning commissions? And I think it's just because of the way the political structure is within the county. I think that having individuals who may or may not represent cities and towns, because this is an appointment for us as a board to make. We could get 100 people who apply from the cities and towns and 10 people from the county and appoint someone from the county. But I think having that understanding of how that interaction between the cities and the county works could be useful. I mean, I just think back to the Walmart project in the district I represent. I think back to the 150 apartments, the Orchard project. The town of Loomis was in front of us actually appealing that planning commission decision. And, maybe if there was someone from Loomis who'd sat on the planning commission who could have more fully fleshed out those concerns ahead of time, might not have been appealed. We don't know. That's sort of the Cleopatra's nose argument. But I just think having the choice, the ability to appoint someone if we decide to do so as a board from one of the incorporated towns or cities to the Planning Commission is a tool in our toolbox. It just deepens the pool of applicants. And I think that's a net positive for the county rather than a net negative. So I would move, if there's no other discussion, that we take action on 9A.
I have some comments.
Oh, okay.
First of all, we've had 9 applications from the unincorporated unincorporated area, including the current planning commissioner that serves, Jerry Brentnall, who has done a tremendous job for the county. We have 5 that are exceptionally qualified. One, a banker, Mr. Nader, who has an outstanding background in public finance. He's also served on several county committees and commissions. We have an architect from District 5 that's applied. We have another former planning commissioner that's applied, lives in District 1. He has a background in several county commissions, and including the Planning Commission. We actually have a school superintendent that from District 5 who is very well qualified. So we have 9 applicants and 5 outstanding applicants as well. So are none of these applicants qualified, or does the board not see the wisdom in appointing one of these members?
Is that rhetorical, or is that an actual question?
That's an actual question.
Sorry. I don't think, again, to reiterate, I don't think it's a question of are they or are they not qualified. I think the question is what is the pool that we draw from within the county for these seats, and is broadening it a bad choice? And my answer is no, broadening it isn't a bad choice. It's actually quite a good choice. I can't speak for my fellow supervisors, and I wouldn't presume to.
It seems that we have a great pool right here before us, and 65% of the people now live in Placer County live in the cities, and I think it's imperative that we have someone that sits as an at-large commissioner that lives in the unincorporated area, and that guarantees the unincorporated area gets some representation. Again, the cities don't allow people that live outside their jurisdiction to serve on their planning commissions. I don't see any need to make this change unless there's someone, one of our board members has someone in mind that they want to serve on the planning commission. Former Supervisor White, did you wish to? You look like you're chomping at the bit there. I will allow you to come forward out of respect for your former position, former chair, which I now sit in.
When I read Mr. Nader, Harriet White, Auburn. When I read Mr. Nader's letter to the editor, I thought, wow, Wayne's really right about this. But then I got to thinking that Rich Johnson has been on the planning commission for, these many years, and he's always been a city resident. I realized that the at-large commissioner has usually been from the unincorporated area. And if it happens that that's the way it's chosen this time, fine. But we have people who live in the city who would be very good at doing this, and certainly everyone deserves a chance because it's our county. It's not just the unincorporated area. So good luck with your decision, but I feel that although Wayne does have a good point, that it's a moot point, and the at-large should come from at-large.
There are, 5 board members here that each have the power to appoint someone. It doesn't matter whether they're from the cities or from the unincorporated area, and that's Supervisor Duran's appointee is from Roseville, and as my appointee sits on the city. So the cities are going to have representation, but I still believe that it should be guaranteed to have someone from the unincorporated area serve on the Planning Commission on the Western Slope. That's just my case.
And I understand where you're coming from, but as Supervisor Duran pointed out, yes, he was elected from District 1, but he represents the entire county.
Right.
So.
Thank you. Did you, Supervisor Duran, you had?
Yeah. I just wanted to make a comment, and I'm glad you pointed that out. That Richard Ricucci is my District 1 representative to the Planning Commission. He's also the former mayor and vice mayor of the city of Roseville, and has done his job fairly admirably. And I don't this whole idea of city and county, the more we get into the economic realities of things, we have to work together more. And one of the ways, and to that issue, if a city doesn't want to pick a county person for their planning commission, that's their issue. But I'd like to be a little bit more broader in our thinking of what we do in the future and be more inclusive and more collaborative. And I think this is one of the ways. It's a small way that we send that message. So I'm going to second. I don't think we've got there yet.
We haven't got there yet.
But I will second that issue. But if it's the rest of the board's will to take a slower approach at this, I'm willing to go with that as well.
Supervisor Euler?
Yeah, I'd simply move approval of 9A to get it in front of us, and let's take the vote.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve item 9A on the consent agenda. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Euler. Duran.
Yes.
Wygant.
Yes.
Montgomery.
Yes.
Holmes.
No. Okay, thank you. We will now move to our 9:15 timed item, which is going to be exciting. This is a commendation to Joseph Joe Francis Carroll for his many years of service to the people of California, and especially the residents of Placer County. And I am going to read this, and then I'll bring it down and present it. And I'm pleased to see so many good friends and old faces that are here to recognize Mr. Carroll, including, it looks like, firefighters from the city of Auburn. Thank you for being here. Okay, Joe, if you'll just bear with me. You've probably sat through many of these recitations, but this one is special because it's directed to you. In the matter of a commendation honoring Joseph Joe Francis Carroll for his many years of service to the people of California, and especially the residents of Placer County, through his news reporting and editorial commenting covering government issues. When Joe Carroll was born in Brooklyn, New York, in 1932, and raised in San Francisco, and whereas Joe graduated from St. Ignatius High School and the University of San Francisco, where he earned a degree in English, and whereas Joe's newspaper career spanned from his time as a copy boy, reporter, columnist for the San Francisco Examiner, to his move to Placer County and the Auburn Journal in the early 1960s, and ultimately the Placer Sentinel. And whereas Joe Carroll's reporting expertise ran the gamut from prep and junior college sports, murders, trials, high-profile divorces, labor strikes, prison riots, airplane crashes, and an execution at San Quentin Prison, to penning a widely read column covering governmental and political issues, and some others, affecting city, county, and state issues. And whereas Joe Carroll chronicled the major news and political events of Auburn and Placer County for more than 40 years, and captured, entertained, and excited local readers, many of them politicians, through his spirited commentary, first as the Auburn Oracle at the Auburn Journal, and later as the Auburn Augur in the Placer Sentinel. And whereas Joe has become a fixture in the corridors and chambers for local government, earning respect and appreciation from his peers, associates, officials, and loyal readers. And whereas Joe Carroll spent 16 years working in the California legislature for Republican State Senator Ray Johnson and Democratic Assemblyman Norm Waters. And whereas Joe's pride and joy has been centered around his children, Joe, Jim, Melissa, and Connie, and grandchildren Katie, Stephanie, Liz, and Riley. Now let it be known, therefore, on this day of February 5th, 2013, the Placer County Board of Supervisors takes great pleasure in commending Joe Carroll for his many achievements and contributions to journalism and his service to the people of Placer County. Congratulations. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Hello?
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah, came in here halfway, and I thought they were talking about another guy. Gee whiz, I didn't know I did all those things. But I was sober half the time. Believe me, and so were you guys. Now, when I came to Auburn years ago, actually, I was thrown off a freight car, and I landed, you know where, in Little Obi's backyard. And he said the courthouse that way, and the board of supervisors used to meet at the courthouse in those days. And the original board with which I dealt was with George Lambert, who was Undertaker from Roseville, District 4, I think. And let's see who else was there. Robert Tiny Radridge from Lincoln, District 3, District 2, I'm sorry. And Lever was District, what the hell difference it make? They're all dead now anyway. I think George Lambert is still alive. He better be. He sued me the other day. Because I hadn't been dead in a lump bed or something. I didn't know you could still sue a walking dead man. But it's good to be here. And the other supervisors initially were, let's see.
Will Jones.
No, Will Jones was preceded by, he was a milkman. He had a dairy out here.
Oh, Henderson, Joe Henderson.
Joe Henderson. You would know Jim, huh? You would know that. You know everything. He's a supervisor and knows it now. He knows. He sure as hell knows the new District 3. Boy. And so you'll forgive me for stuttering, but I picked this up on an electrode or something they fed me at this nut house I'm at. You hang around where I am and you find the roots. What happened when Reagan and the board and still Sutherland and the state Senate decided to close the Wood Hospital? They're murderous down there. Believe me, I know. I got that back to see what's stolen today. So, my recollections are great, and I probably can't succeed my dear friend Alice Ferrer. I hope he did. And let's see. Kirk Dooley, he succeeded himself on the board. Kirk is one of the last of the regular individualists. I registered as a Republican, so I voted off this board. He's a good guy. He's a great guy. Let's see who else there. Who's Mr. Curtin? Oh, Jerry, how are you? Well, the eyesight is a little tough today. I noticed the heavy sunshine outside. I didn't know I was going to the jail or the cemetery. Weeding spiders come not here. That's the motto of San Francisco's Bohemian Club. Weeding spiders come not here. You better take this away from me. I'm getting carried away. My son Joe here is a knockoff. He staged this thing with Euler and Rick Millard and a few other people. But I have a little advice for you people. Don't grow old and don't have a stroke. But I'll turn it back to Joe.
Joe, before I bring this down, go ahead.
Hello, Jim, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, the word is from bootleggers, and there's an open bar, and people who want to have lunch and drink their heads off are invited down there.
Wow, we'll close this meeting up right away.
My trustworthy friend Jim Holmes. Rich.
Before I bring this down there, I know Senator Gaines had someone, Terry Woderly from Senator Gaines' office, wanted to make a presentation as well. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
How's that? Can you guys hear me? It's great to be here today, and Joe, it's my great pleasure to be here. I'm not going to read the entire resolution because
Please
it's
don't.
very simple.
Write those things on.
They go on, don't they? But I do have to point out that the line about getting readers excited, I was in some of those political offices, and let me tell you, those politicians got very excited when your Auburn Auger column came out. So gave us lots to talk about. On behalf of the California State Senate and Senator Ted Gaines, it's my great pleasure to present to you this resolution of commendation, and be it resolved by Senator Ted Gaines that he takes great pleasure in recognizing and commending Joseph Francis Carroll on his exemplary record of contributions in the field of journalism and to the residents of Placer County and beyond. Congratulations.
Exemplary.
Wow. And now I'm going to open it up for the board for comments, and then I'll open it up for the public that wishes to make any comments. Supervisor Wygant.
Joe, it is a great pleasure to see you this morning. I miss your writing. I miss seeing you kicking around here. And having said that, I want to qualify that by the fact that years ago, when I was a young supervisor, you actually described me as loquacious. So took me a while to find my dictionary, but when I looked that up, I learned that it meant that I spoke too much. And that was shortly followed by, and this is not an exaggeration, this is the absolute truth, you actually described me as having diarrhea of the mouth. So I learned to try to talk less. But those were some great years and some great articles, and I loved reading each and every week what you had to say, and I loved talking with you, and wish you the best, and it's great to see you. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Robert. Never call him Bob, by the way. Call him Robert. Have you still got the plane to the airport?
No.
Oh, so much of a fast getaway.
Supervisor Montgomery. Let's continue.
Thank you. Joe, congratulations. And I did mention at Meddlers this morning that we were giving this presentation to you, and one of the things that I pointed out was your incredibly entertaining and acerbic sense of humor. So I'm really glad to see it on display here today, because I didn't...
You mean acerbic?
Yeah, that. I want to thank you, because when I was first running for this position, I went and I spoke with you, and I spoke with Annabelle McCord here in Auburn, and both of you were very encouraging along the lines of, what in the heck are you thinking? You're a Democrat from Donner Summit. You're never going to get elected. But you gave me some excellent advice, which was just to get out in the community, be myself, and, essentially Shakespeare's advice, to thine own self be true. And that's been really, really useful advice for me. And I thank you for that advice. I thank you for that insight.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, great, simple advice, but to the heart. And I just really wanted you to know that I took it to heart. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And now we'll hear from your old friend, Supervisor Euler.
Joe, you have, over the years, provided no end of enjoyment to an awful lot of folks, sometimes at my expense, sometimes at the expense of some of my colleagues and some of the folks that worked here, but always done insightfully, and I believe with the interests of your readers close at heart, which is precisely the way that it needed to be. And what I enjoyed the most about you over the years is most reporters, most newspaper people, they pick up the phone and they call you and they ask the questions and they sit there quietly while you try to come up with something coherent to say. On the other hand, a phone call from Joe Carroll normally meant I got to sit there quietly and listen to Joe tell me about how things really are in the county. And, Joe, you are one of those people that when I was smart enough as a young supervisor to, on the rare occasion, shut my mouth and open my ears, you were always acting in my best interest when you provided me very good advice. You were kind enough to mentor me through a number of situations, and I will always value the impact you had on my life.
Thank you. Generally moved by that. You're our Superman, Kurt. And I say, we'll go to the bar. I'm bootleggers right now.
Well, speaking of drinking establishments, Joe, you and I go way back from many, many years. And I was talking to Lena Processi this morning, who is here in the audience to honor you, about I got my political education sitting at her establishment with Jack Beal, who's here, Hank Gonzalez, and certainly you, Sheriff Scott. I got a lot of information about what goes on in Placer County, and I've always listened and didn't speak much during those. Of course, I was having trouble speaking. But anyhow, it's been well said here. I don't know if I could say it any better about what an important role you have played in Placer County. I know you were at the dedication of this lovely facility. I don't hold that against you. But you've done such an exemplary job just representing the interest in what goes on behind the scenes in Placer County, and I applaud you for that.
Jim, you ran a great service station, and you were a better supervisor for it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Oh, thank you. And I see a lot of your friends here. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to make a few comments about our friend Joe Carroll? Hank Gonzalez, former mayor of the city of Auburn.
My name is Hank Gonzalez, and I like to say that Joe and I go back a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joey. Really Joe, but I call him Joey. He's my godson. Anyway, Joe and I and Bill Wilson, we went back a lot of years, and since Joe hit town, as a matter of fact. And we covered a few stories, like the bombing in Roseville. But I'll relate to you a story that happened here in Auburn when the Hellhole Dam broke. The water came rushing down the river, and we were at Joe and I and Bill and a highway patrol man and Rex Jose were there kind of reporting on the issue. And we saw these huge logs hitting the bridge, a lot of water coming down. And suddenly Joe and Rex Jose from the Channel 3 decided that they were going to go out and walk and see the water coming over the side from the railing. And as I saw them walk out there, I looked down, and the crack that appeared on the Chet Huntley show was happening. So I yelled at Joe and Rex, and I says, "You guys better go off this bridge. It's going to collapse." They looked at me as normal television guys and newspaper guys do. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, about 3 minutes later, they got off the bridge. And about 2 minutes after that, it went out. Remember that, Joe?
Bet your ass I did.
Anyway, Joe's been a great spirit. We've had a lot of good times together. I see him regularly. And Joe, thanks for being my friend all these many years.
Joe, you're pointed the other way, but I'm Don Holtz. And
My neighbor.
we had a lot of adventures together when we were young, so I'll just relate one. And that's, if you remember, I can't remember whether it was in the DA's office or the public defender's office at the time, but it was in the late 60s. And we were out drinking together. And I want to indicate that we were all drunkards. But anyway, one of my confidential informants told me that the state was going to sell DeWitt for $1, and they was going to try to get the county to buy it. But nobody knew it at that time. But I told Joe, and he printed it in the paper, and to write, Wendell Roby flew through the ceiling. And I was summoned to his castle up on the hill there and told that news had to come through him first. Were you called up there too, Joe?
Always.
I want to say one other thing about the DA's office, too. Joe Wilson and Joe Carroll and Bill Wilson could always be counted on to keep their stories confidential until it was time to publish them. And I always appreciated that. Anything we told them.
All right.
Thank you. Jack Veal, I'm an old pal of Joe's since he came to town, and I'm not smart enough to write the figures of the amount of beer we drank together back in the old days.
Well, it wasn't only beer that Joe drank. But I remember coming to town and seeing Joe dancing with all the ladies. Woo! That was fun.
Chairman Holmes, I'm thinking that perhaps the 4-H kids are getting a bit more of an education than they thought they were in for here today. Oh, and they're loving it, so that's
All
good.
right. This is old school, old times. Oh.
Hi, Joe. It's Janine Windishausen. How are you?
Oh, jeez.
Kirk, I think this was your idea. Thank you. Oh, God. Here we go. Joe, you were there from the very beginning of my time here at the county.
A lot of fun.
Oh, yes. J9, right? J9? But it was... One of the things I remember is in your article when I was running for election. I'll never forget this. You said, she ought to take her opponent outside, tweak his whiskers, and punch him square in the nose. But thanks so much for all you've done. It's so nice to see you.
Jimmy, it's a pleasure.
Joe, for those of you who remember in his column, he used to call me J-9 because he's one of the few people who actually figured that out. That's how I spell my name. So, yeah. So, thanks so much, Joe. So good to see you here. Yeah.
Anyone else wish to regale memories? Already. Oh, Father Carroll.
I'm Father Carroll, and Joe is going to confession right after.
I'll go ahead and bring this commendation down there.
Father, too late.
Ain't no sense. Jim Greco.
No, I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm going to say one. I got to tell one story. Joe Carroll was my father-in-law, and so when our oldest daughter Kathleen was in grammar school, she was in the county spelling bee, and so she came up here to Auburn for the final of the spelling bee. And at the time we were out of town, so we're going to come up and pick her up at the end of the spelling bee. So we get up here in the late afternoon, and I pick up Katie, and I say, Katie, how was the spelling bee? And she said, oh, gee, Dad, I did really well. I got into like the semifinals and before she got passed out. I said, oh, well, that's who won. And she said, well, I don't know. I said, well, you're sitting there. And she said, oh, no. She said, Grandfather said, come on, we've got to go over to the Board of Supervisors meeting. So she goes over to the Board of Supervisors meeting. I said, well, what'd you learn there? And she says, oh, gee, Dad, it was really great. She said, Grandfather was going down the panel telling me stories about each one of the board members. And I said, well, gee, that's wonderful. I said, what are you going to tell school when they say, how was the spelling bee? And she says, oh, I'm going to talk about who made so much money. So Joe was even trying to promote civics to the children again.
Well, Joe, I know you have a lot of family members here, and Joe, would you want to introduce them while we're here, or do you have time, or do you even know who they are?
Jimmy, you want to do it?
Michael Carroll is not my father.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, I'll do it real quick.
Okay.
My brother, Jimmy Carroll, you guys remember him, basketball player? He's now a head varsity coach and special ed teacher down at John Sweat High School in Crockett. Where's my sister Melissa?
There she is.
There she is.
My sister Melissa. She's brother-in-law right here. My girlfriend Stephanie Watkins, and then just the whole town of Auburn. A bunch of people who I learned how to say first and last name whenever I walked into the happy hour, and I see Lena here. And Lena, I'm hoping one day I'm gonna find one of those tables where I can play the bowling with the puck. 10 cents. You remember that thing? All right. And it's Shirley Temple to go with it.
All right. Remember those days. Photos. Yeah, we do. We survived so far.
Not bad.
4-4-H kids. Yeah, it's reality.
Free drinks.
Let's get down there. Let's go. All right, I'll pass this. Jody, you want this?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I'm sure my dad would like to thank, as you would call them, Smoke Eaters for being here.
Yeah.
So, you guys are awesome. Jake, Sam, Grandpa. Yeah, you do. Thanks, Joe.
And Joe, you are doing Bootleggers, 11 o'clock, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody's invited.
Yeah.
Guys are waiting for us.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Let's move this meeting along. Thank you. Thanks, Jim, Joe. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, good.
So happy.
We can sell copies of the tape.
Yeah, we can sell copies except for the tape.
No, that's awesome. Yeah.
You always had something. Okay, folks.
Oh, do you guys?
We need to move on here, folks. We need to move on. Can we move it?
Thank you so much for letting us know about this. Yeah.
I don't know, chairman's lost all control of this meeting.
Nice to meet you. I know.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna try to get this meeting back on track. And we'll move to our 9:30 timed item. We'll move to our 9:30 timed item, commemorative coin presentations presented by Supervisor Wygant.
Thank you, Chairman Holmes. Ann, could you tell everybody to shut up? I'm sorry, Joe inspired me. So this morning's my opportunity to give my last year's commemorative coins. I want to thank the board for indulging me. Of course, we do that in December, and I wanted to let everybody know that my commemorative coins this year are going to Kathy Lund and Peter Hill, and the December date was not convenient for Kathy, and Peter said that he wanted to wait until Kathy could be here to do the commemorative coins. So they're both here today, and with that I want to thank the board and welcome them both. So I'm going to give you a little bit of information about both of them, why, of course, I mean, we all know this, but some details that maybe you don't know, and I just want to state that I think it's, with the inspiration of Joe, I think it's relatively accurate. I don't want to, if I embellish a little bit, it's within that envelope of being a politician, so I hope you indulge me with that, too. But so, Kathy, if you and Peter would both come up here, then I'm going to say a few things, and I'm going to come down and give you the coins and give you an opportunity to say anything you want back.
Say anything you want back?
Anything you want. Podium, I guess, would be the best bet, yeah.
Oh, you're going to put us in front of a microphone?
Yeah. Chairman Holmes just advised me that it's a lectern. I have no idea what the difference is, but I'm sure he does, but I'm not going to ask him because we don't want to take that kind of time. So Kathy Lund, lifelong resident of the area, graduate of Sierra College. She's been married to her husband, Jerry, for 48 years, I think, or close thereabouts. She has 2 twin sons, 5 grandchildren. Mm-hmm. I have 5 grandchildren, though, so that's...
And I now have 1 great-grandchild.
You're ahead of me. She was first elected to the council in 1985 and then served 5 more consecutive terms. She was mayor for 6 times. Her key accomplishments include, but are not limited to, obviously, member of Placer County Transportation Management Agency, and actually was a key player in doing a significant reorganization of that entity so that it became more regional in perspective and much more effective in our transportation planning in Placer County, which, as we all know, has been a huge benefit to all of the residents who live here. Also a member of Sacramento Council of Governments, key advocate of Rockland's general plan, and with particular emphasis on Parks and Recreation Department. Initiated on her own, brought forward an initiative to create an anti-gang task force so that those of us, not only in Rockland, but actually all of South Placer, would benefit from being able to be ahead of that curve, because Kathy understood that when you're not, trying to get ahead of it after you fall behind it is virtually impossible. And so that has morphed into an effort that is more regional-wide and very effective. In 2001, Assemblyman Tim Leslie named Kathy the Woman of the Year, and sometime at about that time frame, Governor Schwarzenegger, obviously it was later, appointed her to the California Mine and Geology Board. So that's Kathy. Peter. Peter has been a Rockland resident for 37 years. He's been married to his wife Janet for 50 years. They have 2 sons and 2 grandchildren, so I'm ahead of them, unless there's some news that I'm not current with. Peter was elected to the council, I think, in about 1981.
80.
And served 6 additional terms. Is that accurate?
Actually, 8 in all.
8 in all. Jeez, like that, you were harder. Mayor 6 times. And his accomplishments include being a key player in delivering the original Highway 65 bypass. That's actually where I met Peter. He was involved local government in taking that forward, which required regional cooperation, and I was a member of the Placer County Manufacturers Association, and he came down and gave us a presentation and gave us a reality check as to how to get things done at the local level, particularly when you're dealing with the state and federal government. Peter played a critical role in reorganizing and getting on its feet the Placer County Air Pollution Control District, expanding that membership so that all the cities belonged to it. Key member of LAFCO, and an early and critical pioneer in the Western Placer Waste Management Authority that now provides us regional management of our waste in a way that was not done at the time, including our recycling facility. Pete was a key player in all of that. But Pete wanted me to let you all know that his favorite committee assignment, though, has been as a member of the Border Committee with Loomis. So, inside joke. So, one of the things that I think are obvious from all of that is the unusual amount of regional government perspective that these folks have brought forward and have been really pioneers and a leader to me, an example to me in keeping a perspective that is much more broad and general and inclusive, even when we have competition amongst ourselves as local governments, in a way that serves our citizens far beyond what would be the case otherwise. But it's also important to know that when I was a youngster growing up in Placer County, Rockland was actually smaller than the city of Lincoln, which was 3,200 residents. When these folks came onto the scene in the early 80s, Rockland was about 9,000 folks, I think. No swimming pool, no developed neighborhood parks, all volunteer fire department. I don't recall any restaurants, and there was one stop sign in town. Today, the population is about 60,000. There are something like 30 neighborhood parks in the city of Rockland. One of those is named Kathy Lund Park. The city is very financially sound and stable. The city was named in Family Circle magazine as a top 10 city to raise a family. Money magazine noted it as one of the top 100 small cities in America. Sacramento magazine recognized it as the best city in the region to raise a family. So with that, thanks for all of your public commitment. It would be incredible to try to calculate the hundreds of thousands probably of hours of meetings that you all attended. And as much as anything to me, you've been a great friend to me. You've helped me in this business, helped me be a much better supervisor, helped me during exciting election times when you went way above and beyond. And I know you always preferred a Rockland guy instead of a Lincoln guy. But with that, it's my pleasure to give you the commemorative coins. Thank you, Robert. That's very
Thank you.
nice.
It's just beautiful.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Why don't we do a quick picture, and then you guys can have the podium and the thorn between the two rows. Pleasure.
Well, you're already running late, so I'm not going to say very much.
You got to get down to the bootleggers.
That's true. Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome.
I really am honored to have this. I just have one message for you, and that is, Robert mentioned how we worked regionally. I don't believe that we could be where we are as a county if we didn't have regional cooperation.
Absolutely.
And that's been something that, having served in the smaller R city and happening to compete with the larger R city, we found that we can do that. We look out for each other, and we wouldn't have South Placer, we wouldn't have the bypass, we wouldn't have any of the other things that we talked about here without the regional cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would echo what Kathy said. We've come a long way from those early days in 1980 when we were trying to deal with the first Governor Brown to get the bypass. And the relationships that we've had between the county and particularly Rockland have really been great. And the cooperative effort that we put into building actually South Placer County, because when we were all young and having a lot of fun, there really wasn't much there. So we really had a lot of fun, and were able to do things together to build things. But I'm now going to sit back and watch you guys finish it up. But I think the cooperation is what I will miss, and working with all of you. I think I've had an opportunity to work with you. And Jerry, I haven't seen you for a long time, but congratulations. But I've been able to work with all of you, except the new county exec, David. And it's been a real pleasure over the years. So thank you very much for this, Robert, and the rest of the board. Really appreciate it, and it's been great fun. And we'll be watching you from the distance.
Oh, thank you. I want to. First of all, I want to say to both of you that I've considered you mentors. When I took office, I was appointed to the Placer County Transportation Planning Agency, and Kathy Lund, the longtime member, mentored me, and I was pleased to be able to sit next to her so I could read her notes. So anyhow, I appreciate that. And Peter is on the Air Pollution Control District Board as well. Appreciate your leadership and your mentoring there. And what I really appreciate, now that I represent 69% of Rockland, you guys have done a tremendous job and put that city in such a good position that I just have to show up. So thank you so much. Congratulations. Alrighty, now we'll move along to our 9:45 timed item, a presentation from the Placer County 4-H All-Stars. June Stewart, a commemorative coin winner right here.
Thanks so much for having us. And today, this is an annual event that we look forward to. With our 4-H program is to have our All-Stars, who are our countywide ambassadors for our program, to come forward and present their thoughts with you, and we appreciate this opportunity today. First of all, I would like to introduce our All-Star advisors. They are Laura Lopez and also Darlene Miller. Would you please stand? They are truly the wind under the wings of these All-Stars. They are so inspiring. I really appreciate their help. And we have 3 of our 5 All-Stars here today, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves and give you their comments. Thank you.
Thank you, June. Hello.
Hi, I'm Mia Zimmer. I am a Placer County All-Star, and before I begin, I just would like to let you know that this is a lot more interesting than trigonometry, so I'm very happy I'm here. So this is a lot of fun. Okay, so I joined 4-H the first year I moved to Auburn. I had learned wonderful things about the organization and wished to experience them firsthand, and I have. If I could say what the greatest attribute of 4-H is, I would say that it is the production of strong, reliant citizens for this country. 4-H accomplishes this by providing 4-Hers with a sense of personal responsibility, the knowledge of how to make positive choices, and how to create strong personal morals. Everywhere I look in the organization, I can see youth learning responsibility with leadership positions in the raising of animals. Personally, 4-H has taught me that to be benefited by something you do, you have to put everything you have into it, whether that be when I was raising a steer, running a club, or taking care of a homesick camper. I now realize that if I sign up for something, I had better treat it as a responsibility, because if I don't, I will never get anything out of it. Many young people have trouble with making good decisions for themselves. 4-H teaches youth that understanding consequences and preparing are good choices that lead to positive outcomes. I see kids every day having to balance the costs of raising an animal, creating something in a project, and learning to speak responsibly. Part of making these choices stems from knowing what is right and wrong. Teaching kids that respect and truth are positive morals to possess. As an All-Star, I have noticed the change in 4-Hers firsthand. I have seen and personally helped people in my community becoming the best they can be. I have witnessed young children struggle to converse with people they have just met become amazing public speakers who volunteer to give presentations at their club meetings after only 1 year and being involved in 4-H. When I see these confident young people who take pride in what they have created, I am proud as well. Proud that I belong to an organization that has been doing this for 100 years in California. 4-H, through raising me with many good people, has taught me and numerous others to be a contributing individual in society. We strive to be the best in everything we do, and 4-H helps us keeping that promise to make the best better.
Thank you. Very nice. Very nice.
morning. I'm Amber Miller, and I am also a Placer County All-Star. I have been in 4-H for 10 years, and I'm going to be talking about how 4-H is really good because we give back to the community. Some things that my club does is that we go to the senior homes and we go caroling, and in the spring we do senior crafts with them. And it's wonderful because we get to see the joy on their faces of people coming to visit, knowing that they're loved, and just spending time with them. Another thing that my club does is we have a community service project where, because this year it's our 100th year of 4-H in California, they're introducing a revolution of responsibility where they are giving grants of $1,000 so that you can do community service projects so we can get better known. So one thing that we are planning is we are doing a Woodbridge beautification of the elementary school at Woodbridge, which is a low-budget school in a low-income area where 80% of the kids are on free lunches. What we want to do is to create a wonderful, clean environment where they know what a good environment would be like that is nice and clean and immaculately kept. So what we plan to do with this $1,000 is that we will purchase some new benches, like lunch benches, and then we will paint them all to make sure that it is wonderfully kept. Another thing that we do in our community service project is that we are helping donate bowls to the Empty Bowl fundraiser for the Placer Food Bank, which is basically their only fundraiser that they have, so it's very important. So what we have done in my club is that we have made and painted bowls, which we will then donate so that they can be given also as part of their fundraiser. Their fundraiser is you buy a dinner there, and you also get to pick out a bowl, and it helps them because it is their only fundraiser. So it allows them to fill their pantries with food. And so it's just wonderful that 4-H can help give back to the community that they're part of.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Andrew Wood, and the 4-H program has had an immense impact on my life. Really, so much of what I am was shaped by 4-H, mainly just the good parts of me. It's done so much for the community, for every individual involved in it. You can use it to improve yourself or the community, but it's pretty impossible to pin down the definition of 4-H to one thing. It's kind of what works for you, and you usually receive out of it what you put into it, and a lot more. So if you choose to raise animals, as many people do, it helps by providing you with instruction and the equipment you need to raise animals. You can train yourself as a leader by being an officer in clubs and learning great communication skills. And there is a project to learn and do almost everything from ukulele to first aid, animals, guns, everything. So I live in town. I don't show animals at the fair. So I've gotten to spend more time developing my leadership and communication skills. I serve as an all-star along with these people. And I am the vice president of my 4-H club of over 100 people. I came into this program as an inarticulate and very unconfident 8-year-old, so 4-H has really done a lot for me. It's also given me a huge array of friends from many different backgrounds. It sounds kind of funny to put it that way, but being in this program that has people from all over the county and different counties, you get to make friends from tons of different schools and learn about all these different backgrounds and just have a great array of friends. Like 4-H camp, it's people from all over Placer County. They spend a week together, and that is one of the funnest times I've ever had. I do that every year, and I have friends from all over the county as a result. It's also impacted me, 4-H has, in a positive way by getting me involved in raising guide dog puppies, like Tammy here. Guide Dogs is not actually affiliated with 4-H, but I joined the Guide Dog Project through our local 4-H club. This is our family's third guide dog, the second of which I was the primary raiser. I love guide dogs for the blind because it enables normal people like me to make a difference in the lives of others and have a lot of fun training an adorable puppy. I'd really love bringing Tammy everywhere with me and it's really hard to give them up later when they grow up, but I know they're going to be going to a good home and helping someone less fortunate than me. It's really, 4-H has made me a much better person by getting me involved in guide dogs. And as I said before, 4-H has made my life a much better place. You could say it's made me a better person in general, and I've pretty much enjoyed almost every minute of being involved in it. Thanks.
Mr. Wood, you presented to this board several years ago on an issue on a project. What was the name of that? It was
Forest Guard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Yeah, very nice. You went to England, I believe, in regards to that. Yeah.
We went to England and
Yeah.
did the project twice.
All right, great. Okay. See, I remembered.
They did a wonderful job
Yeah, they
of giving you just a little thumbnail sketch of the ultimate goal of 4-H and helping our youth to become dependable citizens of our community. And I really appreciate the opportunity that we have to come each year and to thank you folks for your support of our youth, of our community. And now we have special honorary leadership pins for you and volunteer appointment cards, and they would like to present them to you.
All right, thank you.
Jim? I'm
Supervisor.
curious as to what clubs you are members of.
I'm Ofer. I'm from the Uganda Bay 4-H Club. It's kind of like the Granite Bay, Roseville area.
I am from Gold Country, so right here in Auburn.
Mount Pleasant.
Yeah. Mount Vernon. Larry Farina, you were Colstar and Eden Valley. Anyone else out there was a 4-H member?
Go ahead.
All right.
Give them their pen and they have names on them. So.
What is it?
Whoops.
Thank you.
Two up and running. As the last time I heard, and so they're taking pictures. I don't know how the software is working out. So that's such a good idea.
Yes.
It is.
And little Tammy as well. Oh, yeah.
Thank you all for coming. Thanks, Jean.
All righty, let's take care of some business. We've got on a department item, item number 5, administrative services procurement. Brentwood. This is a ward purchase order, public works fleet operations and road maintenance. Oh, by the way, there was no charge for the entertainment this morning.
It's a perk.
Good morning, Supervisors. It's a pleasure to be here today. John and I are happy to be here to present the items listed under number 5. We're going to start with a recommendation to award a waterless street sweeper. And with me is Mr. John Manning with the Procurement Division. He's a buyer too, and he'll be presenting the item for you.
Good morning, Supervisors, Chairman.
The Department of Public Works Fleet Services Division submitted a request to purchase one new Elgin waterless street sweeper from Owen Equipment of Sacramento using a National Joint Powers Alliance competitive contract with Federal Signal Corporation, doing business as Elgin Sweeper Company of Oak Brook, Illinois, on behalf of the Road Maintenance Division. The National Joint Powers Alliance is a group that will, what they do is they award contracts, they solicit competitive bids and proposals and make those contracts available to local government agencies. On May 27th, 2010, the National Joint Powers Alliance awarded contracts to 5 responsive bidders, including Federal Signal Corporation, as a result of their competitive request for proposal number 031710. The resulting contract with Federal Signal Corporation is in effect through May 27th of 2014, and Owen Equipment is the sole authorized dealer of Elgin sweepers for the Northern California region and has provided a price quote utilizing NJPA pricing in the total amount of $318,229.23, including sales tax. Purchasing Policy Manual, Section 1.3, permits contracting with a vendor that was awarded an agreement by another public agency as a result of a competitive process without further competitive bidding by Placer County. With your board's approval, you will be recommending the award of a purchase order to Owen Equipment as a result of an NJPA competitive solicitation in the total amount of $318,229.23, including sales tax. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions? Supervisor Duran.
Real briefly, I noticed that the sweeper is waterless. Is there any savings compared to one that's not, aside from the water?
I believe they requested a waterless street sweeper because it will be utilized in the Tahoe Basin region.
Oh, okay.
And it complies with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency requirements.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Supervisor Montgomery.
Just wanted to mention, I see Ken Graham in the audience here, and this is something that's going to be incredibly helpful to us at the county in meeting our TMDL required through our permit from the Lahontan Water Board. The county has done an analysis of, what's going to be the biggest bang for our buck in terms of really meeting that TMDL, total maximum daily load, sorry. And we identified street sweepers, the improved street sweepers, as probably the number one investment we could make at the county to get that return. So I'm just delighted to see this in front of us today. Thank you for everyone who made this happen.
Anyone in the audience wish to address the board on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to board for action.
Move approval.
It's been moved and seconded to award the purchase order for waterless street sweeper. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That's it. Thank you. While you're here, let's go with the award bid for Public Works District Attorney.
Very good. This request is to approve the award of competitive bid number 10222 to multiple vendors for the purchase of various types of vehicles in the total aggregate amount of $629,023, funded by revenue collected from replacement funds with no net county costs, and authorize the purchasing manager to sign the resulting purchase orders. The Department of Public Works Fleet Services Division and the District Attorney's Office submitted requests to purchase various types of vehicles. The Procurement Services Division developed bid number 10222, which requested pricing for 11 types of vehicles, including full-size 2- and 4-wheel drive pickup trucks, cab and chassis truck, compact pickup trucks, light and full-size sport utility vehicles, hybrid sedans, and 5-passenger sedans. The bid was distributed via the county's e-bid system and was also posted on the county's website. We received a total of 5 bids. The bids were evaluated based on the unit pricing offered for each bid package, the upgraded bumper-to-bumper warranty, electronic filing charge to register and title each vehicle with the state of California, and compliance with the bid specifications, terms, and conditions.
Prompt payment discounts and local vendor preference were considered during the award evaluation. However, local vendor preference only affected the outcome for one of the bid packages. An evaluation summary has been included as attachment A to the board item. In light of the current fiscal environment, the Department of Public Works decided not to award bid package 3, which were the compact 4x2 extended cab pickup trucks, and bid package 10, which was one gasoline electric 4-door hybrid sedan. With your board's approval, purchase orders will be awarded to Future Ford of Roseville in the total amount of $358,624, Albany Ford Subaru in the total amount of $48,064, John L. Sullivan Chevrolet in the total amount of $173,615, and Auto West Dodge in the total amount of $48,719. I'm available if you have any questions.
Questions from board members? Seeing none, questions from any members of the public? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for action. So moved and seconded to approve 5B, item 5B. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. We'll now move to item 5C, renew blanket purchase orders, Health and Human Services.
I'm trying to keep this one very short for you, Commissioners. This is a request to renew our pharmacy services with Safeway Pharmacy and with Rite Aid. These are both pharmacy services that provide services in the Roseville area and when the county pharmacy in Auburn is closed. These are for Health and Human Services, and they are funded 50% through the county and 50% through Medicaid reimbursements. We're requesting a renewal of the blanket purchase orders with these firms effective from today's date through December 31st, and in the maximum aggregate amount of $289,000. We did bid this out in 2006, and it is generally our practice to rebid these on a more frequent basis. In 2010, we went back out to the market and tried to find other pharmacies that would be interested and able to respond to our requirements, and we were not successful at finding any. So we've consistently reviewed this, and we feel that this is the best recommendation we can make at this time. Happy to stand for any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions from board members? Seeing none, is there anyone in the public who wishes to address this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back for action.
Move approval.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item 5C. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now move to our 10:30 timed item. Which is here somewhere. This is Public Works Kings Beach Commercial Core Improvement Project. What we'll do is let's hear the first 3 items, and after action, then we'll open up a public hearing at the end of that. So, Mr. Kratz, if you proceed.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Good morning. Peter Kratz with Public Works here to present this item. Like you said, Chairman, this item includes 4 specific requests related to the Kings Beach Commercial Core Improvement Project, as detailed in your board packet. The first 3 requests I will present and then ask for board action, as you indicated, and the 4th request I will present, which will include conducting a public hearing followed by asking for associated board action. The first item is to give you an update on the project. In summary, the project goals and objectives remain unchanged over time with the project with respect to improving water quality, enhancing pedestrian and bicycle mobility, increasing parking opportunities and public transit access, and providing streetscape amenities in the community of Kings Beach. The project also includes neighborhood traffic management plan improvements, of which some have been implemented in the last couple of years. In addition, utility relocation efforts have commenced to prepare for installing the various project improvements. And I'm just going to bounce here on this. I just have a couple of slides. That's the overall project area that we're talking about. We've shown this before in a lot of previous actions for the project. Again, a lot of the improvements scheduled to be on the Highway 28, a mile of the highway with some county road improvements, neighborhood traffic management plan improvements. Some have been installed in this area up in here. As for the second item on your board packet, Public Works staff have worked diligently over the past several months, not in more like years, to fully fund the project. We are not quite there, But with funding requests we ask of your board today and through other anticipated agency approvals, our intent is to deliver a sizable portion of the project with construction hopefully starting this year. The Phase 1 project, as we call it, will include full improvements on State Route 28 between Seacline Street to just east of Fox, construction of 3 new parking lots, and improvements on many of the county roadways just north of the highway. And what I want to point out is just honing in with this is really what you're seeing if you bounce back and forth between our overall project map and our Phase 1 project map is a lot of the highway improvements originally scoped will be completed with the Phase 1 project as we're asking for your approval today for the phasing plan. Seacline is here. What we don't do in the Phase 1 project is this stretch of Highway 28 between Seacline and 267, and then this stretch of Highway 28 mid-block between Fox and Chipmunk. We also don't do some of the improvements scheduled for Chipmunk Street and some of the improvements scheduled for, I believe, up in Seacline and then up in this area as well. So we really bite off a big chunk. And the idea behind this is that we've amassed a lot of funding and put together, and we can deliver a lot of the project. And there are some constraints, that I'll get into that with my presentation in a minute, of why we want to go forward now. But that gives you a thumbnail sketch of what we're trying to do there with our Phase 1 project. I want to emphasize that the first phase proposes to mitigate all environmental impacts associated with this phase, and it can be considered a complete project with independent utility, function, and benefit to the community. The push for construction in the near term is largely driven by 2 funding sources. Number 1, state funding that we just received in the amount of $1 million that requires expenditure in 2013-2014. And number 2, federal funding of $7.2 million that will be at risk of expiring in 2014 if significant progress is not shown by that time. To facilitate construction of the Phase 1 project, the project's finance plan consists of securing all of approximately $23.5 million over the next few months. Your requested approvals today on some of this funding will keep our project schedule on target. The funding for Phase 1 comes from 6 distinct sources, as you can see in the slide here. All except the transit occupancy tax funding previously awarded by the North Lake Tahoe Resort Association require a future action or actions by one or more agencies. Another source of funding includes bond proceeds from the former redevelopment agency, which is here, the almost $6.7 million. No specific action of your board is associated with this funding. However, it is critical to note that this funding is important to be available in the next few months to keep the project scope unchanged and the project schedule on track. Another funding source for Phase 1 is federal in nature, down here, $7.2 million, and was awarded through the Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act. Public Works staff are currently working with Caltrans and other agencies to allocate this funding to the project over the next few months. No action is required of your board specific to this funding. The remaining 3 fund sources that you see up there do require board action today through 2 resolutions, and the first resolution captures the following requests as summarized in items 3A and 3B in your board packet. So for item 3A, we are asking that your board authorize an advance of $5 million from the county's Tahoe Region Capital Improvement Program, which will be followed by full reimbursement by the State Transportation Improvement Program in the years 2015 through 2018. A little bit of correction on our board memo packet. I had said in our board memo of 2015, but the latest correspondence with the state is that it'll be a 4-year return period, 2015 through 2018. The associated resolution signifies to Caltrans and the California Transportation Commission that the local governing board, you, approves of the advance. And for item 3B, there is a process with Caltrans and the CTC, California Transportation Commission, to prepare an agreement between Placer County and Caltrans for advancing the local funds and obtaining reimbursement through what is called Assembly Bill 3090 Cash Reimbursement Arrangement. This portion of the resolution authorizes all related documents associated with the AB 3090 cash reimbursement process to be executed by the Director of Public Works or his designee with County Council's and Risk Management's review and approval. So, in conclusion of presenting items 1, 2, 3A, and 3B, I would now ask your board for consideration to approve the phasing and finance plan for Phase 1 of the project and find that it is consistent with approved environmental documentation for the project and adopt the resolution associated with items 3A and 3B in your board packet.
All righty.
Stand before you.
Any questions from board members? Supervisor Duran.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to know what the timetable is for entering into this agreement with Caltrans. Is that going to take 6 months, 3 months? Are you already involved in that?
Good question. So what I didn't go into some of the details on that side of the equation, the California Transportation Commission, we are on their agenda for March 5th, where this AB 3090 process goes before their board for noticing. If that is approved, then we have to go back. We go back to them in May at their May meeting to actually get the allocation of the STIP funding, and that we, through that process between now and May, we will execute this arrangement documentation with Caltrans staff that shows that we'll advance our local dollars, and in that agreement it'll show that the STIP will pay us back over that 4-year period. So there's an administrative process between now and May for those things to occur.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Supervisor Montgomery.
Yeah, and I just wanted to follow up on that a little bit. And a number of folks up in the Tahoe area have inquired why this is on today's agenda rather than waiting to hear this in April. And the March 5th date is very much a driver in terms of this process. It was not ready when we had our special meeting in Tahoe. Was that really only 2 weeks ago? I think it was.
Correct.
2 weeks ago. But we need to get this in front of this board and get some action before our next agendized Tahoe meeting. So just really wanted to make sure that folks understood that.
Very good.
All righty. Any other comments from board members? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address this item before we take action and before we open the public hearing regarding the resolution? All right.
Ellie Waller, North Tahoe Citizens Action Alliance. I'm not sure when it's more appropriate to get up, if it's during the public hearing or now, because I was going to address the packet by page number. I have a couple comments on the findings as well as, so I didn't know what the pleasure of the board is, if it's the public hearing or now.
The board is about to take action on items 3A and B, which is a single resolution. So comments on that matter should be made now.
Okay.
After this item is completed, the board will take up item 4,
okay,
conduct a public hearing, and then take action on the second resolution that's in the board packet.
Okay, I just had one question then about the chart that's before you there. Under the North Lake Tahoe Resort Association, there was a different number in the packet that I pulled from the website. You have $2,750,000. Is that the same chart?
Sure. From our county website.
Yes, that was part of the board packet that I pulled. So I just want to understand the difference between that number and why it's increased.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'll just say that in terms of putting this packet together, I think there was a last-minute change in terms of what was available from our various funding sources.
Okay.
So.
Okay, thank you. I'll comment on the other later. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the public wish to address the board on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for action.
All right, I move approval of Public Works item 4, 2, 3, A, and B.
So already it's been moved and seconded to approve items 4, 2, 3, A, and B. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you, Peter. Now we'll open up. We're going to conduct a public hearing and adopt a resolution modifying the capital improvement program in the Tahoe Region Benefit Fee District. Sir.
Thank you, Chairman. And this item relates to modifying the county's capital improvement program in the Tahoe Region Benefit Fee District as allowed in Section 15.28 of the County Code. The modification consists of reallocating just over $1 million to Kings Beach, which will provide up to approximately $2.2 million for project improvements related to the project. The purpose for the modification is twofold. Number one, to ensure adequate local match funding is available for the recently awarded state grant known as the State Local Partnership Program in the amount of $1 million. And two, provide additional funding for a future subsequent phase to complete the project. And I really want to emphasize that going forward today with partial funding in hand, number one, I wanted to point out that I'm all done. That we're delivering a big chunk of the project, but we are also committed to delivering the whole project. And so this sets us up by adding more money to the Kings Beach portion of the fee district. It sets us up for additional funding as we pursue other funding to match that other local funding that we set aside for a future subsequent phase. To be clear on this proposed, what I call CIP modification, we are not proposing to increase the amount of impact fees collected nor increase the traffic impact fee in the Tahoe Region District. We are suggesting that the funds can be moved because projects on State Route 267 and State Route 89, where the funds are currently allocated, have been completed and the funds were not utilized for those projects. This requested action requires your board to conduct a public hearing as you opened it up. Proper noticing, I want to point out, was published in the Sierra Sun regarding the public hearing in excess of 10 days prior to today. So following the public hearing and depending on comments received and your deliberations, I would ask that you consider adopting the resolution associated with item 4 of the Public Works 1030 timed item. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Any comments from board members? Any comments from public members? Please come forward.
Good morning, Ellie Waller, North Tahoe Citizens Action Alliance. I hope in the future, as I mentioned in public comment earlier today, that we can figure out a way to have an open line access, not just a stream from Tahoe, if there are delays in getting the funding and the presentations put together. It would be very helpful to the Tahoe people. Again, some of us can make the trips. I do have a few questions. The TRPA, when they approved this project, it's my understanding the neighborhood traffic management plan options and implementation was supposed to be done in phase 1. I would like to better understand what is being delayed for phase 2 based on the incremental funding. Also, how many other phases do you anticipate besides phase 1? Is there just a phase 2? And when do you think the completed project's going to be? It states remaining project improvements will be constructed as part of subsequent phases, so I want to understand that phasing. And it does state that there's a possibility that some of the funding is at risk from the Oversight Board or the successor agency from the RDA, and that it might require a reevaluation and downsizing. I would ask if that does happen, that the funds don't come through, that is heard in Tahoe, so we can better understand the downsizing of the project and what that will affect. And then in the findings, findings 3 and 4 talk about the traffic mitigation fees. I guess I'm just a little confused. How does reducing the current 4 lanes and constricting traffic through 2 single-lane roundabouts, which reduces the capacity, keep pace with increased volumes of traffic from new development? What is that reasonable relationship when a new project comes through when VMT is analyzed? Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to attempt to address some of those?
I'll attempt to address some of those. I think I took some good notes here. In response to the neighborhood traffic management plan, we've always said as part of this project that would be implemented as part of the project. And I'm saying the big project. Our commitment is to complete all of that. We've completed a portion of it, a portion of what are called the speed cushions in the back streets, and some of the other features. What we're doing, trying to tee up with our plans and specs that would go out and advertise in this May time frame to begin construction this year. That's our tentative schedule. Is we have an add alternate where if bids come in low, we would attempt to do some of those additional NTMP elements. Can't guarantee it. Like to get there. Like to make that happen. At the end of the day, we're committed to complete the whole project with a second phase, which will include those NTMP components. We feel like that's in compliance with TRPA regulations in terms of what they asked us to do as part of the whole project. In my humble opinion, there wasn't a timing issue for when that NTMP got completed during the project, that it just got completed when we finished the whole project. It doesn't have any impact in my mind on California Environmental Quality Act or the National Environmental Policy Act components of the environmental document for this project. I hope that answers that.
Chairman Holmes, if I may. Peter, could you go back to the overall project map? Yeah, that one. So I think it's important to note that many of these
Cushions
are already installed. They're already in place. They've been in place for some of them, I think, almost 2 years now. The intent of putting those out there was to be able to do some adaptive management planning for this, figure out where they were really useful, where they weren't, where they made things better, where they made things worse. So I think it's important to note that some of that's already installed. Some portions of the neighborhood traffic management plan will be installed in the phase 1. But I think probably more important, and this is kind of gets lost in conversation sometimes, is the neighborhood traffic management plan was intended to address the needs, how many years in the future, Peter?
20.
20 years in the future. So it was never really the intent of the neighborhood traffic management plan to address needs that were going to be imminent. We know they're going to come up. They're longer term, and that was the idea behind really essentially creating a process whereby phased implementation of the neighborhood traffic management plan gets everything on the ground that we've said we were going to get on the ground in a time frame well in front of that 20 years.
And you're correct. Some of the NTMP components, I'll correct myself, will be installed as part of phase 1, with additional ones, if bids come in lower, the potential that we'll install more. And it is an adaptive management approach. We put in mini traffic circles back in 2011 that didn't work that well. And it was always a plan, working with community folks that wanted to volunteer their time and look at how these things work, that, okay, we need to pull those out and do something different, whether it's a new stop sign or a speed cushion instead, or some other feature to get people to travel safely through the community. I think the other question relates to VMT, a little bit on that. I think it gets into the merits of the project in terms of, we went through the environmental documentation phase of taking this section of highway, converting it from a 4-lane highway to a 3-lane highway. I guess I'm not here to get into the merits of the project that we've discussed and have been approved over time in terms of our impact fee program. Caltrans has been on board with this project in terms of where we're going. So without getting into too much more detail, or trying to get into too much more detail, we're comfortable with asking for your approval to move funds over here where funds weren't needed on other portions of the state highway system, that being 89 and 267.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to address the board on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for action. Oh, first I'll close the public hearing and then bring it back to board for action.
All right, I'd like to move approval of item 4A4.
Second. Oh, it's been moved and seconded to approve item 4.4 under Public Works King Beach Commercial Core Improvement Project. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, thanks.
And just if I may, as a quick note, we are working on trying to get the request addressed, which is a way for folks in the Tahoe Basin to maybe go to the CDRA building and listen to the Board of Supervisors meeting in a potentially more interactive process. So we're working on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our timed items. Now we'll move to item 6, County Executive Board of Supervisors regarding the National Association of Counties. Jennifer Merchant presenting.
Yes, good morning, Chairman Holmes, members of the board. Jennifer Merchant with the Executive Office in Tahoe. Today's requested action would authorize the county executive officer to negotiate and execute contracts in an amount not to exceed $50,000 in order to host the 2014 National Association of Counties Western Interstate Region Conference. Placer County has proposed to host the conference in late May 2014 at the resort at Squaw Creek in Squaw Valley. Other destinations currently competing to host the conference include South Lake Tahoe on the Nevada side, Anchorage, Alaska, Vancouver and Spokane, Washington, Gillette, Wyoming, and Kauai, Hawaii. So we definitely have some competition. In addition to highlighting the North Lake Tahoe region to peer counties from the western United States, the conference would draw nearly 900 room nights during a typically slow tourism period in the area. The conference would generate significant transient occupancy tax to Placer County and would have a positive overall impact on retail, food and beverage, and recreation as well. Host counties are required to host 2 dinner events involving over 600 guests, which is the main source of the proposed expenditure. If selected, Placer County would be required to sign contracts with the resort at Squaw Creek for the food and beverage service, as well as NACO. As mentioned in the staff report, any resulting expenses would be included in the 2013-14 budget, and funding sources could include TOT and other general fund options. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from board members? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for action.
I would move approval.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve item 6. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Now we'll move to item number 7, facility services. Auburn Animal Shelter Project number 4639. Gentlemen.
Good morning, Chairman Holmes, members of the board. Joel Swift, Deputy Director of Facility Services. It's a true pleasure to be back in front of your board to discuss the progress on the Animal Shelter Project. I have with me as well Pat Orm from Health and Human Services, Mike Winters from our Animal Services, Robin Holtz, our Capital Improvements Manager, and Bill Lardner, our Staff Architect on the project. So we'd like to give you a brief outline of the requested actions, and then I'll let Rob talk about the details of the project and where it stands. Again, Rob and Bill have worked very closely with Animal Services as well as the community to develop this project to meet the county's animal services needs. As a consequence, there's been considerable compromises through the process, but we've come up with what we feel is the most effective, most cost-effective, efficient facility. And although the project is not in no way gold-plated, it is a large-scale capital project. The specific actions we're requesting of your board today are to authorize staff to proceed with the request for proposals process, we'll get to 3 most qualified design build firms established by a request for qualifications for the project to be located at the Placer County Government Center in North Auburn. And then the second action is to approve the payment of a stipend in the amount of $50,000 each to the 2 unsuccessful proposers to assist in defraying their costs in preparation and their design costs required to prepare that RFP, which is essentially preliminary design, and essentially purchase their design. When Rob will get into that detail a little bit as well. It was interesting earlier to hear about, in the early 70s, earlier this morning, the purchase of DeWitt for $1, and I think a little other piece of history right after that is when the county constructed the current animal shelter, which is now 40 years old. And when you think about it, a lot has changed in animal care in that time, and certainly with the population of the county as well. So it's really no question of the need for this facility. More recently, your board last authorized a contract with Indigo Architects last April for us to proceed with the needs assessment and to move forward in putting all of this together. And since that time, the team has been developing those documents, working to come up with the right scope of the project and to prepare this design-build package. And previously, in December of the year prior to that, your board authorized us to proceed with design-build as the delivery method for the project, which we used once before, and we feel successfully on the South Placer Adult Correction Facility. We anticipate returning to your board in the fall at the completion of that project. It's about 6 months, with a recommendation for award and a funding plan and all the pieces to proceed with the highest ranked proposal. Rob will get into the detail of that proposal a little bit more, but currently the project is scoped out at $18 million for that contract value, with roughly 23.6 of total project cost. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Rob and let him fill you in on the greater details on the project.
Mr. Unholz.
Good morning, Chairman Holmes, members of the board. Rob Unholz, Capital Improvements Manager for Facility Services. As Joel mentioned, Facility Services, Animal Services, and Indigo currently working to complete the documents for the RFQ and RFP package for the design, build, delivery of the shelter. The package includes the needs assessment, architectural program, design and performance criteria, a site utilities analysis, and an estimate of probable cost. Developed in collaboration with Animal Services, the County Executive Office, and the Animal Services Advisory Committee, the needs assessment projects shelter growth and capacity through a 25-year planning horizon. The facility is sized to house 68 dogs, 92 cats, as well as exotic animals and large animals. It's planned to incorporate the ability to flexibly house animals between adoption, holding, isolation, protective custody in order to adapt to variable intake ratios, levels of rescue and fostering activities. The shelter is designed based on the continued and valued efforts of local rescue groups. It's intended to minimize the length of stay for animals in the shelter and maximize the adoption of healthy, less stressed pets. The major program emphasis is on the health and welfare of the animals and being able to adopt out healthy animals. The architectural program is comprised of approximately 35,000 square feet on 4.5 acres west of the Juvenile Detention Center. It includes public spaces, including the lobby and reception, viewing, interaction areas for adoptable animals. The shelter areas include indoor, outdoor dog kennels. Currently, dog kennels are only indoor kennels. Cat rooms, cat cages, behavior assessment rooms, isolation housing, small mammals and exotic area, and support space. Staff space includes offices, workspaces for administrative staff, animal control, sally port area, and support spaces. The veterinary care area includes intake exam rooms, sick isolation housing areas, treatment areas, surgery, and recovery. The exterior area includes a barn, paddock, feral cat pens, covered exercise yard, and as well as storage and support spaces. Staff is working with procurement services to release the RFP by April. The RFQ will narrow the field to 3 top-rated firms. We've talked this project up a bit, and I expect we will get fairly good response with a number of firms competing in the RFQ. The RFP will be conducted in compliance with the Public Contract Code on a best value process. The process will take approximately 6 months, including the 2 confidential design meetings with each firm, and will result in a schematic level design submittal. Staff will return to your board with a recommendation to approve and execute a contract with a top-rated design build firm after completion of the environmental review process. We're recommending a stipend of $50,000 to each unsuccessful firm. This will help to defray their costs and allow us use of any design features that will benefit the top-rated design and improve the facility. Program level estimate for the design build contract is $18 million. The department is proceeding with a separate contract for environmental review pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, and upon completion of that review, we'll return to your board for approval of that document prior to award of the DB contract. Total project is currently estimated at $23,600,000, including $18 million for the design build contract and $5.6 million for the needs assessment program, design, development of design and performance criteria, the remaining RFQ and RFP package, environmental documentation, construction management, project management, inspection, testing, and contingencies. There is currently $8,458,669 appropriated in the Capital Projects Fund Auburn Animal Shelter Project account. The balance of the project funding is currently under consideration by the Infrastructure Investment Committee and has been part of the capital project planning since probably before the year 2000, with the first needs assessment back in 2001. Be happy to answer any questions and recommend you approve.
All right, Supervisor Montgomery.
Rob, can you address this stipend issue a little bit? Have we done that in the past? And if so, where, why, and was it successful from our perspective?
We've only done one other design build, and that is the South Placer Jail. And yes, it was very successful. We took a design feature from this second-ranked submittal, which was the central control area, and really the hub of the South Placer, especially the detention portion of the jail. And their concept allowed full visibility down the main corridor and any of the doors going into the various housing units, into intake release, into medical, and allowed central control really to have the full visibility besides the benefit of the security electronic system. So we were able to really increase the staffing efficiency and the operational efficiency of the South Placer Jail by taking advantage of that design feature.
And that was we were able to do that because we'd paid the stipend.
We had paid $150,000 on that project to each unsuccessful firm.
And that was, from our perspective, it was worth that investment?
Well worth that investment.
Well worth it. Okay. It does lead me to a question, just thinking about the South Placer Justice Center. This morning at Madler's, someone raised the issue. It comes up every couple of months of, gee, what's Placer County going to do to operate the jail? What have we done in terms of looking at operational costs on this project and how we would fund those? And do they differ dramatically from what we have already?
I believe the Sheriff's Office is working with the County Executive Office to determine some operational scenarios.
No, I meant on the animal shelter.
Oh, on the animal shelter?
Yeah.
In terms of operations funding or the additional capital funding?
Operations funding.
Right now, it is designed to be staffed with very similar number of staff in their current budget. I think there is a slight increase of a number of staff, and I think Mike Winters is here if he wants to address that specifically.
While Mike is walking up, the design is, again, flexible. There's different scenarios in terms of how we might even operate the facility, and this design is designed to support it.
That's great. And I asked the question because I don't want to see a future board in the position that we find ourselves in, which is, how do we fund things that have already been approved? And I just wanted to make sure we've done the analysis of, how much will this cost to operate? Will it be substantially more? Will it be roughly the same? So, Mike, if you wouldn't mind addressing that.
Yeah, to answer that question, we're actually looking at about three different scenarios. One with the existing staff and volunteer and inmate labor to help, it's going to be a larger facility, so we have to look at that. The other option might be to look at a JPA type of organizational setup. Another one is possibly with a nonprofit organization that would work as a contractor to operate the adoption center and the shelter functions while the county maintains its animal control function. So we are looking at them cost-wise, which would be the best scenario, but we haven't actually worked up a budget as to what it would cost to operate the building at this point.
Okay, but your sort of gut feeling is that the scenarios that we're looking at right now would not substantially increase the number of staff and operational.
No, that's true. That's one of the things we're looking at is can we do it with the people that we have now, maintaining the current staffing levels. So our biggest expense, of course, is the employee costs. And because the animal numbers, we're used to dealing with animal numbers like that. So that would be our biggest expense. So we are looking at maintaining the same number of employees.
Great, thank you, that's very helpful.
Okay, thank you.
The architectural program does reflect really utilizing current staffing levels. We're also looking at providing the incentive through the Green Building Code, through which they have to comply with, through LEED, encouraging them to go at least to LEED Silver, and that's on a point system in the evaluation. There are options to do solar hot water. There are options to do ground source heat pumps, a number of options to deal with the energy efficiency of this facility.
So right now, Rob, there's about a $15 million shortfall that's unidentified as to where we would get that to actually build the project. Is that correct? Have we had discussions, sort of similar to what Mike was saying, with potential partners, cities, towns in the county to help make up that? Because I know initially there was discussion about partnering with, I believe it was Roseville, on an animal shelter down there.
Right. Currently, the model for the Auburn shelter are operational agreements with those jurisdictions, but as I understand it, not on the capital contribution side.
Okay.
It is being reviewed in the infrastructure committee among a number of other projects.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I appreciate the fact that Jen brought up the operational costs issue, and with regards to the $50,000 stipend, I think that was a little bit difficult to understand, but understanding that we own the intellectual property that they create makes a big difference. It's a huge difference because we're able to use that however we want to. The question that I want to kind of talk to you about is actual costs, and I've looked here at $23 million total costs at $657 a square foot, which, you know, for a public building is it's pretty expensive. And even if we're looking just at the program level estimate at $18 million, that's $514.28 a square foot. How certain are we that we're going to come into, you know, the project's going to be built? And number one, according to our estimates, and that there are no overruns, and number two, I'm glad to hear that you're talking about how we can save money with regards to green energy, energy costs and different kinds of things, because the operational costs, are going to be fairly significant. So,
I think it's a good point. I'll jump in and you can add to this. I think starting with the type of building, an animal shelter is an inherently expensive type of facility. Given the finishes and the HVAC, ventilation is required 24/7. It's evacuating the ventilation completely. That $18 million is a design and build contract, so there's a component that's the actual architect's fee in there that's factored in. Our cost estimate at a program level has around $13 million on the construction, and that puts it about $375 a square foot for construction costs, still much higher than any office building you might anticipate, but because of the type of construction, that's what's driving that cost component. And it is, as you mentioned, program level. And so what that means is the costs are not built on any drawings. We have a program, the needs assessment really is a document that's based on the types of square footages, and then they use general costs of cost per square foot. The team that we use, Indigo Architects, and their consultants out of Texas and UC Davis, they looked at across the board these types of facilities that have been constructed out on the West Coast all the way back to Colorado. And that's where they came up with checking the numbers of their cost estimator. So we knew that this was going to be a higher cost per square foot, but they're at a program level, they feel like they have a good number. What it does is it gives us some ability when we get to the contractors, and those teams put together a sharp team that can hone that down. We're hopeful that we can beat that, and there's a lot of factors in that, including escalation. They factored in roughly $1 million for escalation in that number. So we have some wiggle room, and we're hopeful that we'll come back with a great proposal when we complete this process.
And I'm very hopeful that that price comes down.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because at either $657 or $514, that's huge. And I ran into the same situation when we were building the new high school out at Antelope. You have all these other different conditions, and then you get the DSA involved, and before you know it, you take a simple project that's less than $200 a square foot, and it's $500. So I just want to make sure that we're keeping our eye on the overall costs and making sure that we can get that square footage to come down, because it makes it real difficult when we've got an issue of public safety of opening the jail, and then we're opening an animal shelter, and there's no doubt that both are needs, but cost is a huge factor. So thank you.
And we are watching that closely. We try to come to your board with a reasonably conservative estimate so that, in fact, we don't have to come back to you and say we were low. But again, reasonably conservative. And with the market, if it continues to stay the way it is, and with the interest that appears to be out there for this project, I'm pretty confident that we're going to do well on this design build. And that's the advantage to design build.
All right, thank you. Any other board member comments? Seeing none, anyone in the audience wish to address this issue? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to board for action. It's been moved and seconded to approve item 7A, Animal Shelter Project 4639. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The items pass. Thank you. All righty. We will now adjourn to closed session, and I will turn this microphone over to our county counsel.
The board will adjourn to closed session to discuss the two items of litigation set out on page 3 with legal counsel. in the amount of $100,000 to bring the total contract amount to $255,000. In the second matter, Tahoe residents versus County of Placer, the board heard a report on this new litigation. That concludes the closed session report.
And that concludes the business of the board on February the 5th, 2013.